clink of silverware against fine china echoed like accusations in the dimly lit restaurant, but nothing cut deeper than her laugh, sharp, performative, slicing through the haze of red wine and false camaraderie. I sat there, my knuckles white around a fork I hadn't touched, as my wife, Elena, leaned into her boss, Mr. Hargrove, her hand brushing his arm with the intimacy of a secret shared 1,000 times. "Oh, honey," she purred, turning to me with eyes glittering like shattered glass. "Tell Mr. Hargrove about that time you tried to fix the sink and flooded the kitchen. Remember? You looked like a drowned rat, fumbling with a wrench like it was rocket science." The table erupted, Hargrove's booming guffaw, the sycophantic chuckles from his executives, but Elena's gaze locked on mine, triumphant, daring me to crumble. It wasn't just the joke, it was the subtext, the unspoken truth hanging in the air like smoke. I was the punchline of her affair, the oblivious husband propping up her climb up Hargrove's corporate ladder. In that moment, as their laughter drowned out the jazz quartet, something inside me fractured, not my heart, but the fragile dam holding back a flood of cold, unyielding rage. I smiled thinly, raised my glass in a mock toast, and whispered to myself, "Enjoy the spotlight, Elena. It's the last time you'll ever shine." The drive home that night was a blur of sodium streetlights and the acrid taste of betrayal lodged in my throat. Elena chattered on about Hargrove's brilliant vision for the company, oblivious or perhaps reveling in the fresh wound she'd inflicted. I gripped the steering wheel until my fingers ached, replaying the scene in my mind. Her flushed cheeks, the way Hargrove's eyes lingered on her cleavage, the knowing smirks from his entourage. It wasn't the first crack in our marriage, late nights at the office, unexplained charges on her card, the sudden disinterest in our bed, but tonight, she'd weaponized it, turning our private hell into public theater. By the time we pulled into the driveway of our suburban McMansion, bought with her promotion money and my overtime soul, I knew mercy was a luxury I couldn't afford. Sleep evaded me that night, replaced by a gnawing hunger for retribution. I lay beside her snoring form, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, each rotation a reminder of how she'd twisted our life into her ascent. Elena had always been ambitious, a firebrand in boardrooms where I, a mid-level accountant, faded into spreadsheets. We'd met in college, her the sorority queen, me the quiet scholar. She'd called me her rock, but rocks erode under relentless waves. Now, I saw the affair for what it was, not a lapse, but a ladder. Hargrove, 50-something and silver-haired, with a reputation for mentoring ambitious women, had been her ticket to VP. And I? The expendable prop. The obsession took root the next morning over black coffee, as Elena breezed through the kitchen in her power suit, planting a perfunctory kiss on my cheek. "Last night was amazing, wasn't it? Hargrove loved you, said you're solid." Her words dripped sarcasm, a private jab. I nodded mutely, already scrolling through her phone while she showered. Unlocked, as always, her arrogance my unwitting ally. There it was, text from H, laced with emojis and innuendos, photos from hotel lobbies I'd never seen. My stomach churned, not with grief, but with a dark clarity. Revenge wasn't a fleeting impulse, it was a blueprint. Over the weeks, it consumed me like a slow-burning fever. At work, my once methodical audits became frantic searches for leverage. Hargrove's firm handled Elena's company's finances, a tangled web of contracts I'd always overlooked. I pored over ledgers late into the night, fueled by energy drinks and the ghost of her laughter. Friends noticed the change. Mark, my poker buddy of 15 years, cornered me after a half-hearted game. "Dude, you're a shadow of yourself. What's eating you?" I almost confessed. The humiliation, the way Elena's betrayal had hollowed me out. But the words curdled. Instead, I fabricated a vague work stress, watching his concern morph into distance. Our weekly games dwindled, invitations dried up. Even my sister, Laura, who called from across the state, sensed the rot. "You sound angry, Alex. Like you're carrying a grudge that's too heavy." Her voice cracked with worry, but I brushed it off, the lie tasting like ash. The pursuit isolated me, turning allies into echoes, my world shrinking to the glow of my laptop screen. Nights were the worst, a battlefield of doubt and resolve. One evening, After uncovering a falsified expense report linking Hargrove's kickbacks to Elena's bonuses, petty cash funneled through shell vendors, I sat in the garage, whiskey bottle in hand, staring at the damning files. Justice screamed for exposure. One email to the board, and their empires crumbled. But destruction whispered louder. What if it backfired? Elena penniless, Hargrove ruined, but me painted as the bitter ex, blackballed in my field? The whiskey burned, mirroring the tear that escaped despite my fury. I imagined her face crumpling, Hargrove's bluster deflating, the sweet symmetry of their fall. Yet in that haze, a flicker of the man I was, the one who'd vowed to protect her, reared up, pleading for a clean break, a quiet divorce. Let it go, it urged, before you become the monster. I smashed the glass against the workbench, shards scattering like my fractured mercy. No, they'd made me the joke. I'd rewrite the punchline. The files burned into a USB drive, hidden in my sock drawer, a talisman of the storm to come. As months dragged, the burden warped my decisions. I sabotaged small things first, accidentally forwarding Elena's flirty emails to her assistant, watching her squirm through forced apologies. Each victory was a hit of venom, dulling the ache but sharpening my edge. Laura visited once, her eyes scanning the tension in our home like a crime scene. Alex, this isn't you. Revenge is a chain. It binds you tighter than them. We argued in the kitchen, her tears mirroring the ones I refused to shed. She left shaken, our sibling bond frayed, another casualty in my war. Elena noticed too, her barbs sharper. What's with the brooding? Still sulking over dinner. I smiled, cold as January frost, biding time. The turning point came unexpectedly, a cruel twist in the knife. Hacking deeper into Hargrove's emails, using a forgotten shared calendar password, I found not just their trysts, but a photo. Elena, radiant, cradling a positive pregnancy test, captioned, "Our little secret, H." The child mine? Theirs? The ambiguity hit like a gut punch, a momentary chasm where doubt flooded in. For a heartbeat, I wavered, exposed now, and the baby paid the price. Wait, and I poisoned my own bloodline. Rage surged back, blacker than before. No kindness, no pause. I'd silenced them both, unborn heir be damned. The files multiplied, my plan crystallizing. Not a leak, but a detonation at the next gala, where their worlds converged. The poison spread, but I welcomed it. Revenge wasn't just payback, it was rebirth. The gala loomed like a guillotine, 6 months of meticulous rot culminating in one glittering night. Hargrove's annual black tie affair at the Grand Ballroom was a circus of champagne flutes and backroom deals. Elena's ascension on full display as she networked in a crimson gown that hugged her now subtle swell. I'd RSVP'd months ago, playing the dutiful husband, my tuxedo a shroud for the predator beneath. Sleep had become a relic. Nightmares of her laughter morphed into visions of their downfall, waking me sweat-soaked and resolute. The isolation deepened. Mark ghosted after I snapped at him over nothing. Laura's calls unanswered. My reflection in the mirror a stranger's, eyes hollowed by the vendetta's grind. It shaped me utterly. Promotions ignored, meals skipped, every breath a calculation toward the endgame. Elena thrived in the oblivious bubble, her hand occasionally on her belly, a taunt I ignored. Our future, she'd coo, but I knew the truth. Hargrove's seed, sown in betrayal's furrow. Preparation was surgical. I'd compiled the dossier, forged invoices, laundered funds, emails detailing their pillow talk mergers. A whistleblower account, anonymous and ironclad, queued to the SEC and board at midnight. But the real blade was personal, a live demo, projected for all to see. I enlisted a freelance hacker from the dark web, paid in cash siphoned from joint savings, his work embedding a virus in the gala's AV system. One cue from my phone, and their sordid slideshow would eclipse the keynote. Doubt clawed in the final days, intensified by a brutal scene in our bedroom. Elena, post-argument over my distance, collapsed into sobs, clutching my shirt. I love you, Alex. Why can't you see that? The baby's ours a fresh start. Her vulnerability cracked my armor, tears hot on my collar, the old love flickering like a dying bulb. For an agonizing minute, I held her, inhaling her scent, the justice of exposure warring with the apocalypse it would unleash. Her job gone, reputation shredded, child born to scandal's shadow. Destruction's allure was intoxicating. They'd feel my pain, amplified. But in her trembling grip, the cost loomed, my soul's final erosion, forever the architect of ruin. I pulled away gently, masking revulsion as resolve. Of course, love, I murmured, the lie of vow to the void. No redemption, only reckoning. The ballroom pulsed with opulence, crystal chandeliers casting fractured light on power players, Hargrove at the podium, Elena beaming from the front row, her hand in his for a stolen beat. I slipped through the crowd, a ghost in tails, heart hammering not with fear, but anticipation's thrill. Toasts rang out, accolades for Hargrove's integrity, Elena's name invoked as rising star. She caught my eye across the room, waving with feigned warmth, the same smile from that dinner, now laced with pregnancy's glow. I raised my glass, mirroring her mockery, the USB in my pocket a live grenade. The turning point struck mid-speech, a venomous gift from fate. As Hargrove droned on ethics, a waiter, hired by my paranoia to eavesdrop, slipped me a note. She's confessing to a friend in the ladies' room. Says you're clueless, but the baby's yours, affair's over. The words blurred, an unexpected truth slicing through the fog. Elena, remorseful? Ending it. For a suspended second, the hall's din faded, my thumb hovering over the trigger app. Question not, would this sate the beast, or starve it? The note crumpled in my fist. Lies, or half-truths to salve her conscience. No, the humiliation demanded totality. Half measures were for the weak. I pressed send. Chaos erupted as Hargrove's slide transitioned, not to charts, but their faces, hotel timestamps synced to trysts, texts scrolling like indictments, the pregnancy photo frozen in damning clarity. Gasps rippled, then silence as Hargrove's voice faltered, face ashen. What the? Elena bolted upright, color draining, her eyes locking on me across the abyss, recognition dawning in horror. The projector looped mercilessly, our little secret, captioned over their embrace. Whispers exploded into shouts, phones whipped out, recording the unraveling. Hargrove lunged for the controls, but security swarmed, board members fleeing like rats. Elena staggered toward me, dress hiked, voice a shattered plea. Alex, no. Please, the baby. I stood unmoving, the cold satisfaction blooming like ice in my veins. Remember the sink joke, dear? Consider this the punchline. Her boss, cornered by suits, bellowed denials, but the evidence was a noose. Feds would follow by dawn. In the melee's wake, as sirens wailed distant, Elena collapsed at my feet, sobbing incoherently. The crowd stares 1,000 knives. Hargrove was dragged away, empire in tatters, his glare promising lawsuits I'd preempted with my own recordings. I knelt briefly, not in comfort, but to whisper, you made me the fool. Now, watch me walk away unbroken. Leaving her there, amid shattered glass and ruined lives, I stepped into the night, the weight lifting, not gone, but transmuted into armored solitude. The aftermath was a barren victory. Elena miscarried weeks later. Stress, the doctors said. Her calls unanswered, divorce papers served cold. Hargrove's firm imploded in scandals, his pension evaporated. I quit my job, vanishing to a coastal cabin, spreadsheets replaced by solitude's stark ledger. Friends? Ghosts? Family? Estranged, Laura's final letter scorning my poison heart. The revenge silenced them eternally. Elena's career a whisper, Hargrove a pariah, but its echo hollowed me further, a void where peace should reign. Yet in the mirror's unforgiving gaze, I saw not regret, but a forged steel. The cost was everything, and I'd pay it gladly. Vengeance isn't closure. It's the throne you claim alone, ruling ruins. A deep message on the cost of revenge. In the end, revenge carves a path of exquisite silence through your enemies' lives, but it leaves you reigning over a kingdom of echoes, where every triumph tastes of isolation and the irreversible shards of what once was whole, proving that true power lies not in destruction's thrill, but in the unyielding grip it holds on the destroyer forever. Moral of the story: revenge silences the laughter of your betrayers, but it awakens a deeper, eternal quiet within your own shattered soul.